I'm Tawnya, the medical coordinator of Elicinia, and I'm the host of the Elicinia podcast. And with me today, I have a very special guest, the creator and director of Elicinia, Jessica. Thank you for coming to the show.
Yes.
So we have some interesting ideas around people, human beings coming as they are with their friends and family. We have so many experiences with amazing groups of friends and families. So we have brothers, sisters, cousins, mothers, sons, fathers, daughters, any arrangement you can imagine.
Childhood friends. We had like a stepmother and a stepchild and a mother-in-law. And so it's been quite a mix.
Yeah.
Really a mix.
So there's a lot of information to be had about deciding whether this is a good fit for you, because we also have had guests as a married couple come separately because, for one, logistical reasons for childcare, dog care, just taking care of the home, but also because they really wanted to have their own experience. And then we have couples really wanting to come so that they could stay on the same level of experience that the other one was on. So we have some ideas around how to prepare yourself and how to decide whether it's for you to come with a spouse, family member, or friend.
Yeah, I personally can say that I see better long-lasting results when someone has visited with a supportive person that is close to them and who is closer than your spouse.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much knowledge to be had that you'll take away not only your perspective, but the perspective of that supportive person in your life. So it brings up an interesting thing, though, because we often have these people who will be in a position where they'll need the Elicinia experience more so than others because they're
Or so they think.
Or so they think.
Or so they think.
They're possibly dealing with treatment-resistant depression or chronic pain or severe types of neuralgic pain. And so they really need to come with a support person. And the support person go hems and haws and finally decides, okay, I'll go ahead and be your support system person because I love you.
Yes, and they're like, I'm here for them, not for me. I don't really need any of this, but I'm just being supportive.
And it's really funny to us because in the end, we always see that support person gains sometimes more than the person who came in the first place.
I'd like to cover a little bit about when it's not a good idea. Like, because we can sit here and talk about how like rainbows and butterflies and everyone's just this big happy family, but when does it go south? When is it not a good idea to be with or to be close to a spouse when you're visiting a psychedelic retreat?
I think on one hand, many of us do want to deepen our relationships. But on the other hand, those long-standing relationships, stay with your mother or stay with your father, if we have unresolved trauma, it may complicate your own experience because you're going to be too worried about curating an experience that doesn't involve
right.
certain
It feels
things.
like when you feel like you are part of planning their experience, and that you really feel like you have to step up into a position of responsibility within a psychedelic experience. I could see that being quite stressful.
Mm-hmm. And many marriages, they have their ups and downs. And so stuff will come up. And it's important for you to know that Elicinia, our macrodose experience, is an individual experience. We set you up to where you're focused on yourself and specifically not the person that you came with, because we know that you're going to be curious with how they're doing.
Right. So I can give like a little bit of an overview of how the session itself goes. Is we do all start out all together in like a meditation class, yoga type of setting. Like there's this little structure that we all start out under.
With specific breath work.
So we start out as a group, but then as the effects start to take place, we scatter into these little like pockets of privacy. So our whole garden area, living area, that's all set up to have these little stations for you to have your own individual experience.
So many people may decide to come with a friend or a spouse, and we just encourage you to have a conversation about what you expect, how much closeness. So you'll find for your macrodose day, it's not the day to have it all together.
It's hard to have it together for yourself, much less have it together for someone else. So that's adding a lot more stress and pressure to it.
So there should be an element of trust in the way that you're able to communicate with this friend or family member so that you can explain that you're going to move through your own stuff. It's going to be your own journey and that they understand that. So if you have that, that's wonderful. That's the golden ticket. If you don't have an element of trust and you feel like your communication is so restricted to where you can't have open communications, then you may want to second guess and reconsider the timing of you guys coming together.
Yes. Also, if you think that you can't necessarily step back and let someone have their full experience, if you're not, you can't just give them that space. It might be a better idea to go separately because we keep people pretty. It's more like it's not a group activity. It's more like a parallel activity, and we do put a lot of effort into keeping people separate, especially in the beginning part of that experience. Most couples, yes, they do find each other at some point during the experience. Towards the end. But at the beginning, having something imposed on your experience can be uncomfortable.
And you're really in your own experience. So it's really hard to understand what somebody else could be communicating to you. And that's a good sign where it's telling you that it's too close to come back together as friends or family members, that you need more time in your own
We're talking
experience.
about during the experience,
Right.
not planning, the planning ahead.
Right.
I imagine that most people listening to this or checking it out on YouTube would be, they're in the process of planning. Like, should I do this together or should I not? Once they're here, we do handle wrangling things pretty well.
That is true.
How about this? What about couples or families that have different interests, different personalities, different interests? Because we did have a couple several weeks ago that, for I think their definition of what they would find entertaining or like as a worthwhile endeavor, it probably did not line up very much. Like I don't think that one of them would have been very much into a yoga class. They had very, very different interests. One wasn't even super interested in this type of experience. But so if you have diverting interests.
Well, I think if you have diverting interests, that doesn't check the box that you should reconsider. We have such a diverse team that we can really handle a diverse interest. You know, whether you're more science-based, more factual, if you're more spiritual, because that happens very commonly. Very commonly, couples are married to their opposite.
Yeah,
So,
that's the best way to do it, right?
yes. So we do have a diversity and an ability to engage both people. So that's still on the table. So, my question to you, Jess, is like, can you give us an example of a family member or friend that you would not want to bring or have this experience with?
I think that I would not want to share this experience with someone that I don't feel could respect the experience. Like that I wouldn't be able to talk openly with after.
Yeah, for me, being the nurse, I would say my younger brother and sister, because I would be worried about them medically and also as a mother.
Do they have any sort of medical conditions that would make them sensitive?
No, but I would be on the lookout of my brother and sister. So I think that brings up a good point. Like if
you can't be the nurse and the participant at the same time
yeah.
anyway.
But we still have people going, I am the one that fixes everything for everybody. So those people exist and they come
that is
here.
actually a really big like a big hurdle we come across pretty often is that when we do have people that are in a caregiving role, like nurses, doctors, then therapists, they do struggle with focusing on themselves during this experience.
That's absolutely true. So what are some of the ways that you help them redirect and focus on themselves?
Well, give them a really good talk about how you have everything under control. It's all Tawnya.
Yeah, that's true. And
she's the nurse today, not you.
Yeah, definitely. And, we make your container more private. There's headsets and there's silent disco headsets that have different types of music
and the
playing.
VR headset, too. It's its own little world right
the
there.
VR headset. So we can redirect you from focusing too much. And it's just a time to remind yourself not to focus so much on that other person. But, yeah, I would definitely come with my husband. I don't think I would come, and I would come with one of my oldest sons, who's 22.
Okay.
But I would not come with my brother, sister, or mother. It just feels like it would be strange.
Okay. But we have had like several parental combinations so far. Just last month, we had in one retreat a pair of brothers, a mother and son, and yeah, a mother, a whole family with
Yeah, mother,
their
father,
adult son.
and an
Yes,
adult son. Yeah, which was a wonderful experience for them. It was wonderful.
yes. It all goes to show that it is all like very, very individual, very unique.
Yeah, and it's also really wonderful to see good friends come together because there's this element of humor and laughter that is so essential as you integrate your process. So,
And that only continues when they get home. It's I think that it's a really very healthy and great for their experience that they got to, in a way, take a piece of it home with them, because the person that was there with them, the person that experienced it also, they have that to share forever from this point on.
So, two things you want to look for is, can you communicate well? Do you have trust? Can you guys have a sense of humor about things? Can you take it not so seriously and seriously when need be? And are you able to give each other space? Those are crucial points.
Yes, yes.
But otherwise, coming, with a friend or a family, like, it can be really transformative, and not just your own experience, not just their experience, but in your experience as how you exist in whatever relationship that is.
So I think that a lot of times when people are thinking about having a individual or very individual experience, they're thinking about a room, like in a clinic or something with a sofa, and they're like closed off from the rest of the world. But that's not really how we handle things here at all.
Yeah, that is definitely true. So we do start off as a group, and there's science behind doing things as a group. And the term that they use in research is called collective effervescence. So sometimes we get boosted with these neurochemical components that make us feel a little bit more excited to do things as a group. And it's amazing to see the glue and the closeness as people shed their masks and come together as a diverse community and as a group. It's completely amazing. So how we do it here is, yes, you have these stations, but you're not isolated and alone. At any point, you can look up and take a look around and see what's going on with the experience around you. But you're not in a macrodose experience. You're not really able to host a party.
How about you personally? Do you like to have experiences in groups, or do you consider yourself more of a loner?
Well, I had a lot of my previous experiences by myself. And I thought it was great. I really thought it was the only way to do it until I did have an ayahuasca ceremony session as a group. And that was good. That was okay. But then when I had a macrodose of psilocybin as a group, it was transformative for me because I was really able to use that time directly after to bounce ideas and express what happened off each other, and talking and explaining what you can remember and how you felt, even, days and weeks later, is really valuable because
it helps you to preserve the memories, right?
Yeah, you preserve the memory, not only because you can remember your own, but because you can get your friends' perspective of
you're helping them preserve their memories too, right?
That's true. And you can get their perspective of how they viewed you. And it becomes lighthearted and interesting. And the process becomes less serious and lonely. But what about you and your experiences?
I'm
what
a
do you
complete
prefer?
loner. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with the parallel experience. But no, I'm not the type to be talkative or to really be involved in a group during an experience. But I think that in putting together this program, that was one of my biggest goals, is making sure that people could find their own groove, that they could find, like, are you alone, or do you prefer to be alone in that moment? Great, it's available. That's a possibility. Do you want to be inside? Okay, inside's available. Do you want to be outside? Outside, beautiful garden, it's all available. I can't say that I have the exact recipe that works for absolutely everyone all the time. So you have to give people the ability to design their own experience, to explore it on their terms. Because just look at the contrast between our personalities. Like, it's going to it's going to be like you're going to have to find your own pace
Yeah, and
to
you
to
said,
find your groove. Yeah.
yeah, find your groove, design your groove, which I love that term. Now,
Hmm.
how many different grooves have you seen evolve out of, out of this retreat?
In one person? No. Oh wow, we could go over lots of different ones, but I think that we have a flexible enough program that someone could find what works for them. Truth, it might not be like everyone has the exact perfect combination for them, but there's something that they can find that they can settle into.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like let's just take for example the staff for one. I put it together to have a combination of similar personalities to me, and also people are complete opposites because I can't be everything to everyone. No one can be everything to everyone. Just like this whole setup, this whole garden can't be everything to everyone. It has to be flexible. You have to find what works for you. And if someone wants to spend some time talking about their deep emotions after a psychedelic experience, we want to have that for them. We want to have someone who has an intense level of emotional intelligence. If someone wants to spend time talking about the nature of consciousness and neuroscience, that's a whole different skill set. So we have to have someone on staff that can catch those balls too.
Yeah, I love how, I'm going back to the visualization of finding your own groove, the unique experiences that have the diversity in experiences to
Mm-hmm.
all these individuals that have had their macrodose experience here at Alyssania. It never, ever will ever become mundane because we are so
No.
deeply, our psyches are so deeply unique that they unfold in such interesting really, it's just really fantastically beautiful. It's like an ocean and all the fish. That's how the diversity of fish, it feels like that's how people's macrodoses experience evolve.
Yes, and it's different each time. Like I tell people over and over again that I have to have rather frequent experiences, probably more frequent than is than I would describe as comfortable. So, like I've had experiences from, let's say, the same batch of mushrooms, the same, and just a few weeks apart. And if someone had told me that they were different, like completely different substances, I might have believed them. That's how diverse the experiences can be, even within the same person.
Hmm. And can you just refresh us on why you have to have frequent doses?
So I have hemicrania continua, and I only get about, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks of pain-free time per dose.
Yeah, so it feels like a different experience each time. That's very, very interesting.
Yeah, and if it feels that different for me, I had to design a program that is flexible enough to fit into all of those individual experiences. So I can't dictate and say, oh, because it was like this for me one time or even a few times, that it must always be like that for you.
Mm-hmm. So,
Not.
for example, the story that you have about the one macrodose experience where you felt that your legs were really long. It's so long, in fact, that you
It
had
made walking really tough.
yeah, that you had to crawl to the bathroom. If you believe
Butt scoot
oh,
was butt scoot to the bathroom.
if you believe that every macrodose experience is going to be like that, then we would have designed this retreat entirely different.
What would you do? Taller ceilings? I don't know.
Yeah, so that is really true. And
Mm-hmm.
we do design it not only on an ability for the diversity and the staff and the opportunities in the music, but also the diversity in how you're going to take this forward in your life and really creating this as a tool that you can weave into your life in your own way, not in a set way where there's like one protocol, B protocol and C protocol. That's not how we work at all. It's really about finding your own rhythm and not only your experience here, but how you tie it into your life.
Right. How you plan out that dosing is very different depending on your goals. If you are looking to address pain like I do, then the frequent doses are important. So a lot of attention has to be put into making sure that those doses are comfortable enough that you can repeat them at that kind of frequency. Because if your doses are traumatic, difficult, consistently, it's not going to be possible to pursue it at that frequency. But I can say that the more time that I put in between each dose, the more psychologically satisfying it is. So if I was looking to pursue, let's say, mental health purposes with my dosing, I would want to put a good amount of time in between each dose so that I could have that feeling of like psychologically satisfying like that.
Wow, interesting. And it also goes back to our topic about the importance of having a support person. So if you have that opportunity, and some of us don't, some of us live lives that are isolated, more isolated than others.
Yeah.
So they may not have the opportunity, though they really want to, or they're a person that is seeking pain relief, and ideally they would have a support system, but they just can't. And that's okay too, because we can get you a lot of information and give you the support you need here and help you learn about your path and what you feel best and how to find your own groove while you're here.
Mm. Yeah, in one of our retreats early on, we had a visitor who actually had come really against their wife's wishes. Like, wife was not really on board. And it was quite upsetting to him to be at the retreat, experiencing, yes, this collective effervescence and getting rather, let's say, aggressive messages from his wife saying, "Are you fixed yet?" Mm-hmm. So I think that there is there's a line there about how, do I think that it would have been productive for them to come together? No, probably not. What do you think?
I think that it speaks to having boundaries, and it's like, it's a term that's overused when we talk about this. But when you start to step into the psychedelic space more and more, you need to have boundaries, because you start to quickly learn that you can't talk about your experiences with just everyone. You have to hold them close to you so that they can have value. And you start to pull in who's your real and true friends and kind of push out who's not, because you tend to become a little bit, it sounds so cheesy, but step into more of an authentic version of yourself, and you feel more comfortable living that life rather than putting on masks maybe you had in the past. Would you agree for you?
Oh, yeah, 100%. It's really tough to maintain inauthentic relationships with, like, say, friends, coworkers, et cetera. You lose a little bit of patience for small talk. So, yeah, you're right. I think that the word boundary is overused a bit. I think sometimes people use it as a great excuse to cancel plans or just not be a nice person. But for this purpose, yeah, having boundaries is important. And it's about knowing who you are.
Yeah, that's true. And my favorite boundary that we have, that we try to instill in our guests, is their boundaries with their cell phones while they're here, so that they can kind of get some space from the possibility of work messages that can feel really intense and demanding, or messages from friends or family that can feel intense. And even if they're not intense, they could feel intense at that time. So we like to just take a break.
Oh, I got a great piece of feedback from a guest that actually just recently left the last group. And they said, "Well, you guys, you tell us not to have our cell phones on too much. You encourage avoiding it." So I'm a rule follower. I turned it off. I put it away. But then you have a schedule and there are no clocks around here. How am I supposed to be on time for all this stuff if I can't open my cell phone and there are no clocks around?
Wow. So what are you going to do about that, Jessica? That's a really good point.
Well, it is. Yeah. And I was really I was chewing on it. Like, their suggestion is that we should have someone walk around with a gong whenever.
It just gets better.
It does. And there's a side of me that says, yes, we do have to do that. I think a gong is a great idea. And I know that Madai is going to be very disappointed when I volunteer her for the gong position to walk around with the gong. But
well, just this last retreat, we had guests saying, I heard I had an auditory hallucination of a bell. So I think it's going to get really complex.
The bell was real, right? It was in the meditation class. He has that little singing bowl.
So who rang it though?
I'm pretty sure it was Emilio that rang them. So it was real.
It was a real bell.
And I mean, some of the bells you hear around here might not be real. It's just It's just the lay of the land, part of the way the system works. But yeah, that one was real.
Good. Yeah. So as you're setting up for your experience, drop in with your own intention of why you're coming and bring open and honest communication to your friend, partner, or family member and see if it's something that you guys can do, because it will be amazing. It'll be an amazing memory for you guys to take, and you'll double the education. So you'll be able to ask each other things that maybe you missed, or
like, was that bell real?
Yeah, was that bell real? Or more about cultivation.
Oh,
or
yeah.
It deepens your experience to hear the experience of others.
You just brought that up, and I said that is a really big, like a benefit. Is sometimes when couples come, they send one to the mushroom growing class, and the other one sleeps in.
Oh, that's
and that
true.
is, yeah, totally worth it, right?
It can be worth it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great if they both come, because, it's a very complicated process. Yes. It can be. You've got it simplified, so it's pretty easy to digest, but it is nice to sleep in too.
And I think that's all that we had. Then, did you want to add something else about?
No, I think just stay open-minded, and if you're coming as the support person, stay open-minded as well. See if you can do your own research to kind of open up to it, because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Right. Well, how about we wrap it up? Okay, what is the funniest story, without too many details, that you can give of a couple that came to visit?
The funniest story.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm springing this on you, right?
Okay, as a couple,
yes.
No, I can't tell you my funniest story as a couple, but I can tell you the funniest story of two friends.
Oh, two friends, yeah.
So it's so funny when you have two friends from a long, long time ago that know each other and their entire lives inside and out, and they move through really wild experiences, and you just get so much joy and laughter from hearing them retell what the macrodose was like from their different altering perspectives, and they can just be so hysterical. And that laughter, and we get, thank yous at the end of retreats for that laughter, because it is just so wonderful to be around. So what about you? Do you have one?
Now that you mention it, I think that, a friend story is probably the funniest one. Like, you remember when the two guys were we did the ice bath, and they got very competitive about it?
Oh, yeah.
They're like, the first one to go is, whatever I do, whatever time I do, you're going to have to beat me. And he just stayed and stayed and stayed. And the time was just ticking by. It was up to almost 10 minutes in that ice bath.
And usually it's only 2 minutes.
Yes, 2 minutes is the norm. And at the end, he said, well, I only got out because I didn't want you to hurt yourself trying to beat me.
Yeah, human beings are diverse and hysterical and unique.
Mm-hmm.
So stay open-minded, but notice your friends and family and have those conversations. And I hope that we get to see you soon.
Yeah, I hope to see you soon. Bye.